Hello, Cherry.
I'm listening.
Please open sunroof.
Got it. It's opening.
There's been a number of talks with regards to public-private partnership, right? Do you guys think that that's something that would work? If it would work, like, how do we need to approach it? Because there is obviously the fear that, look, I mean, you get private institutions involved, they're only focused on making profits. Whereas if the institutions are 100% controlled by the government or the state, the focus is then on, I guess, servicing the people.
Yeah, I think, again, it's traditional thinking versus now.
Yeah.
How do you amalgamate the two worlds? At the end of the day, if I say, listen, we give Google to run our country, will you be happy with that? A business running the country. It could be run because, again, it's a business aspect to it. There's a people aspect. So you can always have different avenues of learnings to make sure everybody works in the same level. So you have the political management, you have the private sector management, can be married together.
Yeah.
Right, but again, you have to break it down and build it up again.
Yeah,
that's what we need to actually do and get these working together. Because I think the private sector and the government are working at different levels, with consultants in place or whatever else. But now we need to find out what are the results.
Yeah.
I think clear outputs need to be defined and timelines and deadlines that need to be put in place. Because we have this relationship years and years, but it's going nowhere.
Yeah. Kaya, your
look, I definitely think those triple Ps do work. We've delivered quite a bit of work within the government public sector. Obviously, we have to see value as a private company getting into that partnership. But value sometimes can be broken down into more than just commercial value for a private enterprise. And there's ways to ensure that, all stakeholders in that collaboration, in that partnership do see and do get value out of that partnership. There's ways to get around it. And I think the country has more than enough examples to show that these public-private partnerships can work if they're structured in the right manner.
Yeah.
I want to give lots of examples like, and I might be shot down because this might not be the best example, but look at the stadiums, the sports stadiums we built for the Soccer World Cup, right? There was a lot of public-private dealings and partnerships that went in there to ensure that, one, we showcase the power and the strength of the country to the world, not just to the soccer community, but to the world, And I think we did that. We more than did that. And that was government and private coming and working together. Yes, some people will argue, well, now you've got the stadiums, they're not fully being utilized. Well, they are actually being utilized, It's not just sporting events. There's music events and there's other exhibitions that happen, just to obviously make sure that we extract maximum value from that. That's just one example, obviously not related to transport, but the point is they can work.
They can be a partnership.
100%, if we all identify the value that we each seek in that partnership.
Yeah, so I think I'm going to come back to that. That's a very good example. But also remember, that peak of from 2003, since we won the bid, to the 2010, the 7 years or whatever, there's a huge amount of FDI coming in. So there was money available to do this. And it's a driver of the thing. So that's what I was saying, the money aspect actually is what was driving the partnerships as well, in terms of there was profit on both sides.
Yeah.
Okay, government was making, and we were making money. But again, if government can do that for a 7-year period, just for one thing, why can't we continue that?
Yeah.
Because remember, at that point, the dollar was at a low for us. We were getting good vehicle sales were high, not only on the passenger people. Our tax rates were fine, interest rates were lower. There's a lot of other aspects that come in the value chain when you have these FDIs that are coming in.
Yeah.
And now we are totally opposite at this day, at this point in time.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that, Neil, because I think the other day I read a report on on Twitter, in terms of Mauritius as a country, they are actually richer than South Africa. You know, from a GDP perspective, per capita perspective, and the report goes on further to say, for a country of 1.3 million people,
Sure.
versus what are we at now? in South
60
Africa?
something.
60 million odd.
Yeah.
You know, it was a number of initiatives and policy changes that Mauritius made. They made them about 10, 12 years ago. And they basically relaxed some policies to ensure that the country as Mauritius was more business friendly.
Yeah.
So if there's external, foreign companies that want to invest because, the skills are there and they're much cheaper and there's a high work ethic in that country, well, why not go and open a factory that manufactures our products by Mauritians, so we benefit because we grow local skills in Mauritius, and then we export that product. They gain as a country, the government has some kind of, tax that they get from that, and that it's gotten the country to a place where they're essentially richer than
South Africa.
And I think it's the principle I spoke about earlier, that I think we need to have that leadership from government in terms of how do we create an environment in the transport sector that is business friendly, so we can get this foreign direct investment, to then really, really put the fire behind the revival of the transport economy.
Yeah.
We're not on people's maps anymore, financial investment maps anymore.
Yeah.
That's the big thing. We are here for tourist things to go to Cape Town. We sell our
And that's it,
mountain.
yeah.
That's it. I mean, like say, everybody asks me where we travel the world. How's Cape Town? City of Cape Town. So
Yeah.
it's what we're saying is that we need to get our world where we were. The spotlight was on us again. We need to find something and unfortunately that's government's responsibility.
Yeah.
Or we can take it as a challenge and say, listen, the private sector needs to work with government to come up with an idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk about infrastructure, in particular transport infrastructure. To me, I think about roads, I think about railway lines. However, there's also then an element of technology involved. Can you maybe just give us an overview of that?
Yeah. So, I mean, technology right now just infiltrates just about every business. It's very hard to look at a business without some kind of technology assisting to help that business run effectively. Within the infrastructure that, let's call it, runs transportation in the country, there is quite a plethora of initiatives that the sector itself can actually get into and adopt just to run efficiently. If you look at trains or rail, I think South Africa first needs to have a stable infrastructure and a stable, rail system or rail network system before then they can improve on that. There's always talk of let's pull in, purchase fancy locomotives that run electrically, and then you want to ask, but does the infrastructure exist within South Africa to actually extract maximum value from these very fancy locomotives that we want to bring in?
Yeah.
So how about first looking at our logistics network, which includes rail, which includes the ports, which includes maybe even aeroplanes, aircraft, as that entire logistic supply chain, and say, what issues do we have and how do we fix that, And I just really believe that the technology is there. You've got automotive or autonomous trains that are running without the need for human beings or drivers to run those trains. And obviously the benefits there, they all just really couple up, because now the trains can be scheduled to run at any time. Yeah. The trains can run as long as you want them to run, because you're no longer depending on a human being being tired, and so the benefits of infusing these technologies like autonomous trains is awesome. But we have to first get back to basics, I believe, as a country, and say we've got challenges. That's the reality. Yeah. How do we fix those challenges? And without laboring the point, in South Africa, and especially within the rail network, we've got sabotage on a daily basis. where people will come and steal, the cables and, just basically the infrastructure that the trains run on. I mean, you can't have trains running on nothing. They derail every day because the driver doesn't know that 20 kilometers in his path, there's actually no network of rail. So sabotage is one, crime is another. Aging infrastructure, I think, is a big one as well.
Yeah.
How does the country invest in the rail network when the network itself and that whole business isn't justifying investing in it?
Yeah.
And it's not justifying it because tonnage and loads are moving to road because road is becoming more reliable. And that's what customers want. They want reliability. So we can certainly look at the technology that exists, and there's lots of technology. But I think even before you bring in fancy technology, it's about first fixing the current challenges you have. I mean, it goes back to that old principle of you crawl before you walk, and then you walk before you run. So let's be clear and realistic about the issues that we have in the country, and let's have a plan to fix them. I mean, if we need to bring in rail police, do that.
Yeah.
We can only try, right? And let's see if that fixes the problem. Good. Maybe it creates stability or drops the crime within our rail network. Great stuff. We've sorted that out. Next problem, aging infrastructure. Cool. What do we start with? Then we pump investment into that. So I think there's lots that can be done, but there's just a bit of realism that needs to come into one accepting the problems we have and then saying how do we deal with them.
Yeah. So Neil, Nikai is touching basically on a number of changes that need to be made. You work for an Asian company, and you were telling us earlier on that you have to wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning to basically have meetings with your colleagues in Asia. Can you maybe just tell us what is it that Asia is doing differently than South Africa to ensure that they've got this infrastructure that Kaya is talking about, the stability, and they're able to move goods, which in turn obviously then improves their economy?
Okay, so I think let's look at it this way first.
Yeah.
I want just to touch on some of the points we made. I understand that infrastructure needs to be improved, but the good thing, we have an infrastructure. So it can be done quite quickly with the right resources, and not going out for these big tenders and whatever else. But something else I want to touch on just now, on what we spoke about. And as OEM, we need a short-term solution, a now solution to cater for our current products, our current customers, our current dealer network. So this is what we every day are trying to find the solutions to help. And that's why we moved to the container system, bring the cars in, and we are doing the logistics and getting more time on the roads. And I see also the logistics companies also working over the weekends. But this also causes a problem on road infrastructure declining or decaying, because it's like rail, it wears out. So this is another area that we're going to have the road decaying just now, and then the rail is also decaying. So these things have to be looked at holistically.
Well, it's happening now, right? Of all the potholes and
And the number of accidents that we're seeing caused by trucks.
Yeah, that's coming. Okay. And coming back into the Chinese. So the 2 o'clock in the morning thing, it's my thing.
Yeah.
I like to work with the team early, get going and get the day going. The team is in China when we went there in April. To give you a story, we went to the shops and, getting food because the time was different. So we were getting munchies and stuff at the night. We couldn't really pay with our credit card. We had to use cash or an app. WeChat Pay or WePay, Alipay, whatever else. That's where we couldn't do. So that was the first thing we picked up. Then the second thing we picked up, that the job infrastructure, the guys doing the menial labor, the shops, sweeping of the streets, cleaning up all stuff, with older people. The corporate jobs, are going to the younger generation. My counterpart in China is 28 years old.
Sure.
He's a product director at the age of 28. All right. Their education system is a bit shorter than us. Some of them are 3 years, not 4 years, and they go into the working environment immediately. We've had interns come in and become product managers within 6 months. Right. There's a focus in China. Everybody's focused on doing their best to improve the economy, doing their best to improve the profit of the company, doing their best to increase the volumes of sales. So there is a clear-cut line of focus between, and they would work the extra hours to get the work done. So I think in our case, but this is the Eastern culture.
Yeah.
I worked for a Japanese company before, and been to Japan a few times, China, India, Thailand. There's a whole new focus on the younger generation who are willing to take up our roles at a younger age. And people are trusting them, the older generation is trusting them to do this, especially from ours in the automotive industry.
Yeah. You know, it reminds me, I know we are talking about transport with a blend of technology. India, some 40 years back, you know, took a decision as a country that we've got a growing population. We need to find jobs for these people so that they can also participate economically. And there was a decision taken, deliberate, that we're going to invest in IT.
Yeah.
And we're going to train our masses, our populace, equip them with technology skills. They will sort of shorten the typical IT degree that takes 3 or 4 years. And to Neil's point, they will create very short courses for specific, call it subject lines within IT. So if you want to do software testing, go and specialize in that, as opposed to doing a 3-4 year degree, whereas you can do a 6 months course in system testing, software testing. You come out with your qualification, and companies are incentivized in India to then hire these people because they've got very specific skills within IT. And I mean, look, fast forward 40 years to now, I mean, India as a country is a powerhouse. And I'm talking about the Indian nationals that you find just about everywhere in the globe with those IT skills that they are now selling to corporates in other countries, right? It's their number one biggest skills export. It's IT.
Yeah.
If South Africa could maybe make the same sort of call, even within transport, and say, guys, logistics, transportation is key to the growth of our economy, to the growth of our GDP. How about we actually take a deliberate decision to grow the skills of our country in this sector and actually identify where the skills are required? To Neil's point, maybe we need people with skills to maintain rail network, to look at, you know, ports and how they operate, you know, and then you can bring in technology as well, which, I mean, I will speak about as well to a little bit more detail. But it would be great if we could actually have that type of leadership, you know?
Yeah.
I think to add to that is that we spoke about us being very westernized.
Yeah.
Europe was our template where we, you know, based our country, based our lifestyles, based on everything else. And now things have changed. Now we look at the Eastern culture as becoming more relevant in the global economy, and we need to start undertaking from them now versus what we've been used to taking, and try to compare the two and see which works best for us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as I said, we're stuck at the moment. We need to find a way out.
Yeah, and it's quite a young generation of people in South Africa that fill that unemployment gap. You know, if you look at our unemployment figures,
I think with the highest.
Yeah, it's quite a young sort of group of people, and it's a worrying factor.
Yeah.
Because it means now there are young people that are trying to get into and participate economically, but they can't.
Yeah.
You know, it's a big problem.
And I think it's also something about the company culture. It's accountability. It's performance management. We call it micromanagement here in South Africa. But you are accountable for making sure the company grows.
Yeah.
And if you don't make your targets, you will find somebody else. That's the mentality in China. We'll find somebody better.
Yeah.
If you're not living up to it, maybe we'll. It's not a cruel way. It's actually a business relationship. It's not friends and family.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we are. I think it's a Western culture where we are a family of companies. We do this in a certain way. But you see where China is at the moment, see where India is at the moment.
Yeah.
So
if I may, just one last comment,
Yeah.
it just came to my mind right now. So in PE, incidentally, there was a big automotive brand, I can't quite recall the actual brand name, that pulled out of Port Elizabeth or Uitenhage. They had a big plant there, and they had been in Uitenhage, the PE area, for a good number of years. I'm talking 30 to 35 years. When they left, you have no idea the impact their departure had in terms of jobs in that area. I mean, you had families who ran their small businesses relying 100%, supplying some product or service to that huge, automotive enterprise.
Yeah.
So it killed a lot of families, killed a lot of business, because there's a whole supply chain
That gets affected, yeah?
That's get affected
Yeah.
with that, and it's sad because we don't need that. We need the opposite of that,
Yeah.
where our automotive counterparts are investing in the country, and I think there's lots of opportunities that can be identified and that we can latch on.
Yeah.
You can have just a small company supplying, rubber that makes tires, as an example, and you can have a whole family that has that business that employs 10, 15, 20 people, and they're doing well and they're thriving. There's lots that can be done.
Yeah, yeah. So you gentlemen were touching on a number of, call it like initiatives in the different countries that you were mentioning, or rather solutions to try and address some of the issues that we have. Seemingly in our country, there's this thing of whenever there's an issue, our government decides to come up with some committee to try and fix it. Currently, specifically with the logistics issue, infrastructure and whatnot, the presidency has then formed this National Logistic Crisis Committee to try and obviously tackle the issues, mainly relating to Transnet, but also just affecting the automotive industry and other industries in general. Would you just maybe, Neil, touch a bit on that? I know you do interact a lot with the government institutions as well as NAMSA and so on.
Yeah, so I think on these crisis committees, this is a war room, as we call them, and these are things to actually try to solve the crisis quick as possible. They are important. They are aristocratic kind of management style. And I think it's just a matter of taking action in these committees. I think these committees are trying to do the right thing, and we just need to increase the speed that they're doing it at. And the right decisions need to be made in those committees to pull through to solve the problems. But as I said, they're going to investigate, they're going to do the feasibility, the risk, whatever else there is in this place, and it does take time because Transnet is quite a complex network of things that are going on, like Eskom is. There's a lot going on there. So some people, they need to first understand what's going on. So you have a lot of time spent on trying to understand.
Yeah.
And then you have putting a report together, putting this here, then there's recommendations. I think that's what I say now, how do we do this at a faster rate? Critical thinking, we talk about this, that, whatever. So we need to identify these committees and the right people are in these committees. That's the first thing that needs to be put in place.
Yeah.
So I think, as I said, there is a plan now with the tackling of the volume of vehicles coming into the country by moving a certain set of vehicles to other ports identified. So that's a solution that's in play. We're seeing the improvement as it stands. But December is coming up, and November, December is the busiest time of the year.
Yeah. So just touching on that about moving some of the capacity to the other ports, will it not then result in us losing the market share, especially if we're moving those imports into our neighboring countries such as Maputo, Mozambique?
Probably there is going to be a downturn in terms of grain imports revenue. But you're getting an upturn of more vehicles coming through, so we can import more.
That increase in activity.
Stock is a big issue along most of the OEMs, right? So we're getting cars into the country faster will help with that.
Yeah.
I think in our case as well, we have a good stock supply locally.
Yeah.
But we like to always keep on increasing that. We try to be very wary of how we plan our shipments because of the current situation. So once that there's more capacity at the port, we can order more and plan more. Because we don't want 1,000 cars to come in on a ship and it just stands there for 3 days. We've paid hefty penalties this year. So that's also a risk that's also in play from the other OEMs. We don't want to pay those penalties.
Okay.
Right. So if we do, we know that there's a capacity, there's going to be better opportunity for us ordering a higher volume of cars coming in.
All right. Let's, go on.
Yeah, I just wanted to also just maybe support Neil's comment around, these committees that get set up, these war rooms to deal with challenges. I commiserate, with the powers that be, because the public always wants some kind of rationale or, context behind why government decided to do this and that, So they set up these committees and these war rooms to at least be able to say, we did some investigation. There was a deep dive that was done to actually unpack and understand the challenge, and then the recommendations that come from these committees, then we act on them. I think I agree with the speed at which these committees need to be set up, need to operate and come to some kind of finality, some decision. But then the actioning of the recommendations that come from that is another problem, because I think that might be taking too long to actually happen and bring into reality, so that the problems can be solved, So I think there might be a lot of bureaucracy that might be interfering into how quickly, those recommendations can actually be actioned, which is probably one of the issues that we need to fix. But like I said in my earlier comment, we are a creative bunch as South Africans. We've got some good ideas. It's just about freeing and letting go of the bureaucracy so that people that need to help us get going, get going.
So I think also this is a CLM from my side, that the management structures, either private sector or government, will need to be broken down and really looked at. And look at how we can do them. Because it seems that we're doing the same things we did 20 years ago and expect it to work now.
Differently,
I mean, it doesn't work. 20 years ago, 15 years ago, we had COVID. Toppled the whole apple cart. Business is done in a totally different way now. People were fighting that we couldn't work from home. People are inefficient. We proved wrong. People are doing it. Companies globally have stuck to that. In South Africa, we tended to go back to what happened before COVID. When we had something that was actually operating and working here beforehand. So the whole management structure needs to be looked at and try to move away from our traditional MBA teachings.
So I just want us now, gentlemen, to move to EVs, electronic vehicles.
Sure.
All right. Again, approximately, they say about 84% of South Africans actually still prefer your internal combustion engines. Now, I wonder whether if it's a matter of preference or if it's an issue of, firstly, government policy or the lack of, or an issue of affordability, or again, the issue of infrastructure, because I'm going to buy a vehicle that runs on a battery, and if I'm driving to Durban, how am I going to recharge?
Okay, so I think let me start on the global landscape on EV first before we do anything. There was an article that came up a few days ago. USA's electric vehicle industry dropped 26% in quarter 3 versus the previous year. Elon Musk lost 26 billion or something, or $2.6 billion. Right. The appetite for electric in the US may vary, has dropped a bit. And they were also talking about maybe the demand with the strikes. Let's take China on the other side. China is a bigger new car vehicle infrastructure, volumes. So they do about 23 million cars a year versus 14, 15 million in the US. So it's close to double. And the EV percentage is 26%. That was year to date this year. The driver behind that is the government. So what some cities or what some states do, they ban you from registering any vehicle unless it's an electric vehicle. So you are forced to buy an electric vehicle if you want to have a car. So they are supporting the electrical vehicle industry because they are the biggest manufacturers of electric vehicles. And having 1.6 billion people, their local consumption is quite high for electric vehicles. So you'll see when you get to China, there's different color number plates, and this is the driver behind it. Now, coming back to Chery and OMODA, which is a Chinese brand. We have a split strategy. We do have the internal combustion engines, and we also have the electric vehicles. So we have taken some of our customers and our dealers overseas in last month for the Chery Technology Conference. We call it user customer conference. And where we actually expose our CSI initiatives, which is very important for us, which Chery would love. And I'll touch on that a bit later. So that's on, we exposed the electric vehicles, our technologists coming in. We showed the OMODA E5 that's potentially coming to South Africa pretty soon. So looking as a local hub for the Chery and OMODA brand, we have to take the decision, is it viable for us to come inside here?
Yeah.
And over the last 10 years, or even longer, 15 years, EV has been in the country, or new energy vehicles. So new energy vehicle hybrids with some of the Japanese OEMs. Now the Chinese OEMs are bringing in the hybrids as well. And how does the South African consumer take this up? Okay, the studies that we have done, you're right, there's 87% is actually higher. People prefer the internal combustion engines versus the new energy vehicles because the actual volume is less than 50 to 100 units a month. In a market that's 29,000 cars on the passenger side a month. So it's a very small percentage that are people. And the clear direction is two things. Firstly, where do I charge my car?
Yeah.
Right? Secondly, the cost of the models. So currently it's quite a premium. I think the cheapest EV in the country could be correct that selling is about 700,000 Rand.
Sure.
And 700,000 Rand, you're looking at about 15,000 Rand a month installments. Okay? So how many people can afford that? So then the second point of that is in the US and the Americas and even Europe, China and Europe, the EV strategy is based on carbon footprint reduction.
Yeah.
In South Africa, people are more interested in pocket increase. So the disposable income is more important. So having the electric vehicle, will it bring my fuel bill down?
Yeah.
So these are the things that the education that we are playing with as OEM to introduce these vehicles into. We have to introduce them because this is our company strategy. And we want to bring those nice technologies here. We want to give people that, because driving an electric vehicle, I'll invite you guys over when we get our cars, it's a different feeling altogether. It's much more better feeling driving an electric vehicle.
Yeah.
I'm a bucky guy, whatever else, and for me to say that's quite a big thing.
Kai, I think now what Nelly is also just bringing it back to then the infrastructure, and then maybe again to the public-private partnership that we were talking about, because we're now touching on two things. Like you need to have the charging port, and the question is, okay, who's responsible to make sure that there's those charging ports? Again, giving an example, driving from Joburg to Durban.
Yeah.
That's one, and then secondly, there's an issue of now there needs to be electricity. We're currently going through issues with Eskom and load shedding. They're trying to fix it, but I think we're long away from being the way we were previously, where there was no load shedding at all.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that, sir?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think Neil put it quite succinctly when he mentioned that, they are running as OMODA a sort of two-pronged approach, where let's keep investing in vehicles that are internal combustion driven, and maybe then take like a cautious approach in terms of electric vehicles, because I think it's a market, it does exist, and yes, there might be a bit of a slowdown in certain developed markets like the US, but the market still exists, and there might be ups and downs, and I think South Africa as a country, it would be great if we can actually explore this new market of electric vehicles as well. And the reason for that, you're quite right, electricity does play a huge role in this. And, I don't see families investing in an electric vehicle if they can't be guaranteed, just in terms of a consistent supply of electricity so that they can actually get the best or get the value out of the electric vehicle. So that's the most obvious challenge that we need to overcome as a country, just the consistent supply of power. And then I think too, you're quite right, the infrastructure is key as well. I want to know that, if my vehicle OEM hasn't managed to set up some kind of charging infrastructure in my residence, in my house, then there is one very close by where I stay, right? So that I can keep the car going. So I think the investment in that infrastructure is also probably another good point or a factor to consider, in terms of going into this. And I think then that's where, to your point, that public-private partnership probably needs to then come in. And then we understand, how does government help the transport industry, your vehicle OEMs, then in terms of ensuring that we've got a consistent supply of power, we've got the infrastructure to make sure that we have the uptake of electric vehicles in the country. we actually deliberated about 2 years ago on one of the purchasing an electric vehicle from one of the German-based manufacturers, I something. And in the end, we actually decided against it because those were the genuine fears. It was, look, are we actually going to be able to get the value and get the most out of this vehicle? Because we just are worried about the infrastructure, how many areas where we drive to. We don't want to be stuck between Johannesburg and Durban. So those are, I think, factors that need to be considered. Yeah.
There's something I talk about. You're buying an electric vehicle to go around Gauteng. It's 130 kilometers north, south, east, west. To have a daily run on an electric vehicle in these environments. So the conversation needs to be, how often do we actually drive to Durban? How often do we drive to Cape Town? A flight to Durban is $800 on the cheapest rate. Okay, so we can take our family down, but even hire a car, $500-600. So there's a whole business value chain that we need to consider and understand what's going on. That's why I was saying you all thought about this here, but from the OEM side, we've taken people as OMODA, as Cherry, to China to educate them how vehicles are used in these countries and how to get them away from the fear. It's a fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
If you know about it,
then you can probably plan. And
you probably plan it.
Yeah, and I think the exposure of potential buyers to the experience prior to making the buying decision is key. I think it's important, because I'm a petrol head at heart. When I start my vehicle, I want to hear that engine sound, that noise. That's what I grew up with. That's what I know. And it's part of the experience of owning a car for me. So if I'm now going to go and purchase an electric vehicle, if I'm not getting that sound, what am I getting? Am I still going to get this experience I want? Or will my senses be heightened by one or other means that I haven't seen before? I think it's important to expose users.
So remember, the performance on the electric vehicle, especially acceleration, is a lot. You've seen the videos on YouTube and stuff. Performance. So once you get in there, you'll see the acceleration is better, the drive is better. But I'm coming back to this here. Change happens. We either live with it or die with it. So if we want to have, big European V8s, V12s are dead now. So the world is going in a different direction. You got to get something American to get that sound, with a 2-liter. So I think that the change will come. There will be a crossover. And then not only you, but other generation, people who have never experienced vehicles, it becomes used to it. So I actually think of it this way. In the past, we looked at quality, durability, reliability as the key features for a brand to have with purchase, right? And performance with some brands. Going to the future, it's going to be technology. And technology will be based more on EV. So then the people that will be attracting and understanding, they won't have our fathers, grandfathers' ethos of having those values which are presented. They have a different value now. Where your car becomes your cell phone.
I was fortunate about a month ago to travel to Dallas in America. I was there for a conference. And on one of the evenings, we went out as the BDO community of leaders. And, excuse me. So at this restaurant, we were standing outside, and a vehicle that delivers pizza came through to, I think, the shop next door. And the vehicle was completely autonomous. There was nobody in the vehicle. And it was an electric vehicle. It was a Tesla. And Tesla had partnered with this pizza firm to obviously deliver pizza with these autonomous vehicles. And they've been running this, I think, probably for almost a year now. Obviously fixing any niggles that they come across. And, when we then read further on it, it seems like a concept that will soon become reality. Because they're piloting it out to obviously a closed group of people that they've warned up front that, look, when you order, this is how your pizza is going to be delivered and such. I mean, it'd be awesome for us to get that type of technology in South Africa. But again, it comes back to let's ensure we've got consistent supply of power for electric vehicles.
Yep.
Let's ensure that the technology can be supported. We train people, we identify young people to participate in this. To Neil's point, they might be more excited, they might be, more open to getting these new skills because their experience, their expectation is just so much different
Yep.
from us. So for me, I always see it from an economic perspective in terms of how do we bring this technology in the transportation sector to help with economic issues and unemployment issues in our country.
Yeah. So, gentlemen, I think Neil, you said it yesterday that we can talk about this topic for days.
Yeah.
Right. I think let's bring it to a close. Maybe just closing remarks from you, Neil, and then Kaya.
On EV, younger generation, giving them the earning power. So I hierarchy in South Africa. If you are working for me, you can earn more than me as my junior. We need to get that in play. That's what China is doing, which will allow the younger generation to afford the electric vehicles that they require. And then also you attract that. That's another thing with us is buying power. So I think electric vehicle is coming. We will probably be a leader in the space. It is quite expensive at the moment, just because of the volume, the economies of scale. But I think watch the space, especially on our side.
Yeah. I think you guys are doing some exciting things because I do have one or two friends that have actually switched over from your, typical SUVs to now buying Cherries, and you obviously are doing some great things. I think as a lasting comment from me, there is great opportunities that exist in our country. I think it's important to consider the sort of glass half full as opposed to half empty. Yes, we've got challenges, but what can we do out of those challenges that can be beneficial to not just obviously the transportation sector, but to fix and remedy the issues that we have in the country. We've got young people who are eager for skills, eager to be trained. There has to be some kind of initiative, some kind of incentive. And that doesn't have to come only from government, but incentives to get people to be repurposed, retrained, so that they can participate. The transport economy has a lot of opportunities to get people these new skills so that we can actually think about, well, how do we have people creating their own businesses in terms of even having charging stations and selling them, or building parts that can fit into the entire supply chain of electric vehicles.
Yep.
I think there's lots that can be done, but it is about meeting of minds, bringing the SMEs and people that know about these things together and saying, let's fix these issues. How do we participate together for the benefit of our country?
Yeah. No, gentlemen, thank you very much. I think, wrapping up Transport Month being the 26th of October, look, we've got a number of challenges as a country, but at the same time, I think we see that there's opportunities. And I think, like you were saying, Neil, that there's countries to learn from. It's not like we're reinventing the wheel. I think we just need to learn from those countries, and then also there needs to be a change when it comes to our mindset and the way we do things.
So I think, I'm just going to go back on our company and what we've been doing to explain what's happening. Is that in 2 years, it's going to be 2 years for Cherry South Africa next month, and we've sold over 27,000 vehicles.
Sure.
In the 2 year period. To give you a highlight, that's Hyundai does about 27 to 30,000 a year.
Sure.
All right, so we're already playing in the big fields. We're about 6th position going on. OMODA is coming in now, adding to the brand, adding to the flavor, adding the new premium. We have another brand coming in later on, Jayco. We have a fully electric brand coming later on. So there's a lot going on in the space of automotive from a Chinese manufacturing perspective. And we're looking to invest. We're looking to change the norm. Breaking down. You always hear me talking about breaking down.
Yeah.
This is what we need to do and rebuild again. Because you said you've been to Dallas, you've been to the US. You only just start looking at the Chinese, the Eastern. We need to become more Easternized. We were more Westernized.
Yeah.
Now we need to understand where the technology is coming. What you said Tesla is doing there, we're already doing it in China 3 years ago. You understand? So I think that the focus as a country will be moving towards the east. As for the importation of vehicles, as a motor brand, we've got a lot of models coming in. We've got a lot of customer projects. We're the only company that takes our customers to conferences twice a year. King of Customers.
Yep.
We have CSI initiatives on a monthly basis. So we're trying to make sure our customer is first and our community is first. We're not just saying it, we're doing it. So the action that we speak about, what South Africa needs to do, we need to go away from an academic-based approach and be more in-field.
Yeah, more practical.
More practical.
Yeah. All right. Neil, thank you very much for your insight when it comes to OMODA as a company and obviously then the issues that we have as a country. And Kaya, thank you also from BDO for your contribution linking in technology into the current issues that we have as a country. Gentlemen, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Cheers.
Okay.
Thanks. Thanks, Neil.
Okay.
Thanks, yeah.
Thanks.